Well, welcome to Gorton Monastery. Its Manchester nickname is Manchester's Taj Mahal, and it's true. Truly it is, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Yes, it was great last week when we had Her Majesty here on Thursday for a private lunch with probably about 120 guests. And the Duke was with her as well, and he was in good form, suitably feisty from time to time, as he has a habit of being. And it was lovely to see them both here. And great for the community of East Manchester, and particularly here in Gorton, to have the Queen of England amongst perhaps the third poorest part of the United Kingdom. So it was really a very special occasion for all of us. Now, Gorton Monastery has got quite a history. It was built in 1861 by a group of Franciscan friars who came over from Assisi in Italy to build what was to become the first Catholic church following the Reformation of the monasteries by Henry VIII. So a very significant building, and in many respects it's the cathedral that Manchester never had in terms of the Catholic Church in any event. And when these friars and the local people built the place, there was probably about 350 people living in Gorton and the 8 friars. And people said, what on earth are they doing in Gorton, building this cathedral of a building? And not only that, they actually built it north-south as opposed to east-west, which is more conventional for church buildings. And it stands 100 feet tall in the nave, where you'll be having dinner. It's probably 160 feet tall if you include the spire. And it makes it the second tallest church in the whole of the country, in terms of the nave. And we're pipped to the post by Westminster Abbey, which is 4 feet taller. So I sort of vibe from thinking about digging tunnels and just trying to make it 5 feet taller than it is already, but we are stuck with the fact that Westminster Abbey is 4 feet taller than the monastery. Anyway, by the time the friars finished building the church, it was probably 11.5 years later. The congregation here in Gorton grew to many thousands, because right next door to the monastery there was a firm called Bayer Peacock, who built some of the world's finest steam locomotive engines. Probably about 14,000 engines in their lifetime, some of them still working in some outreaches of the world. And working very well indeed. So it was a very, very busy industrial heartland of Manchester. Over the years after they built the church, the propagation here in Gorton grew, and the congregation in the church grew to about 7,000 people attending Mass on a Sunday here. From 6:30 in the morning through to the same time in the evening, 1,000 people, hour after hour, would come here and enjoy Mass. And everything was fine. 3 schools, great football teams, thriving community in Gorton here. Until 1989, when, following a slum clearance programme here in Manchester, in this area, the parishioners were displaced. And in the end, we probably had about 38 people attending Mass on a regular basis, and a building that was completely unsustainable from the Franciscan perspective, and all very tragic. So the Franciscans decided they had to leave and couldn't stay anymore, and they sold the building to a property developer who was given permission to convert the nave into 7 floors of apartments, and to convert the friary, which is what you walked through earlier, I think, where 100 monks used to live, and to convert their cells into apartments as well. Anyway, fortunately he went bust, but unfortunately when he left the building he left the doors wide open. And in 7 short years, anything that wasn't carried out was then vandalised and broken to a pulp, which was a real tragedy. Then in 1996, I was travelling on a train between Manchester, Piccadilly and Leeds Central when I worked for Asda in Leeds, and saw the building about to fall down in my view. The roof had gone, the windows had broken, and it was a very, very sad sight indeed. And I decided that day, one of these defining moments in your life that we all have at some point, decided that I would do what I could to try and save the monastery. I went home that night and said to my wife Elaine, we need to save the monastery. Her head fell immediately into her hands, as you can imagine. And when she recovered, we then came the following weekend to have a look at the monastery. And it was a terrible sight really, because we were able to walk straight in. The place was completely occupied by pigeons. It was flooded with water, and it was a sea of devastation, the likes of which I must admit I had never seen before. And the connection here, in case you think I'm completely bonkers, is that when I was a 7-year-old, my very strong Catholic mother dragged me to the monastery to sign up as a trainee altar boy. And I graduated through the ranks, as you do, and was still an altar server when I was in my 20s. And then I left for work, to live in different parts of the country. So I hadn't seen the monastery for probably 25 years or so. So it was a bit of a shock to me. But I hardly realised that, as we did do, that we would set a charity up that would raise the money to save the building. And that's what we did. So over the course of 11 and a half years or so, we raised £8 million to restore the building to its current condition. And you can imagine in that time we've had some very fabulous highlights, and we've had some pretty dark days as well in the process. But throughout it all, it's been quite inspirational for all of us involved in the project, just how much people have appreciated the building. And from a social point of view, it's been interesting, because, you know, when it was about to fall down, and it was truly about to fall down, people in a, if I may say, a hard-pressed community, and a community where I grew up as a kid, they felt even worse about things than they did before the building was about to fall down. And yet when they started to see that there was something going to happen, and when they started to believe that perhaps the building could be saved and put to good use in the community, they started to build themselves up again too. So there was a sign of pride re-emerging in a community which has not had a great deal to shout about over the years. So that was great, really. That was an unthought of benefit that we experienced. But in the early stages of the project, when we were thinking, now what are we going to do with the building now we've got it? Because we bought it from the Royal Bank of Scotland for £1, plus all the liabilities that came with it. And I think, to be fair, they were glad to see the back of it, as you would if you're a bank and you've got a big building like this. But in a year after we got the keys to the building, the World Monuments Fund decided that the building was so important internationally that it should be listed as among the world's top 100 buildings, which is where the Taj Mahal comes in. So you have this fabulous headline in the Daily Telegraph of the day, which said, Luxor, Pompeii, Istanbul, and Gorton. And that was the headline. And from that day, the building had the nickname of Manchester's Taj Mahal, which was great. And I do remember during the Commonwealth Games when we were still pretty derelict and people were still coming in, giving us pennies and coppers and so on. We had an open day. And when I was in the Great Nave, where you're going shortly, and a few black cars arrived on this Commonwealth Day Sunday, and out popped men in black suits, dark suits as they do, with black shiny cars behind them. And this chap came out, introduced himself to me and said, hello, I'm the Indian Foreign Minister, and I'm here to see Manchester's Taj Mahal. So I said, oh, very good, very good. So I invited him in, and he has invited me back, but I've not quite made the trip yet, but I must do it before I get too much older. So that was quite a nice moment. And we've had great support from the Prince of Wales, who's been here a couple of times, for once when we were on scaffolding and hard hats, and the other when he said I would quite like to bring a number of guests for dinner, if that's okay. I said, perfectly, sir. And he turned up bringing 400 people with him for dinner, which was even better. And I always remember him saying when we started out on the project that he said, you're tackling something which is quite a challenge, really, which obviously we knew. But we said we'd give it our best shot. And when he came back the second time for this rather fabulous dinner, I remember him standing in the nave and saying to the audience that exactly these words. He said, I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen, but just standing here makes me think that anything is possible. And that's what we feel. The whole team here feel the same way, that everything is possible if you try hard enough. So here we are. We restored the building with the help of some fabulous people. We have more work to do, £3 million worth of work to do. We're currently raising ourselves this next year, we hope about £1 million through fundraising. If we raise the million, then Heritage Lottery will grant us a further 2 million, and that will complete the job. So our ambition here is to finish our project that was started all those years ago in our 21st year of operation. And we will achieve that objective. So it's only 4 years to go for that, because we've been pushing away at this for 17 years now. And through the years, there have been some fabulous things happen to us. As you go into the nave, you'll see some statues that stand 50 feet high on plinths. You may have already seen them, forgive me if you have. But in the early days of the project, you know, they turned up in a Sotheby's catalogue as garden ornaments, garden statuary. And the singer Cher was such a fan of Pugin, who designed all the statuary, that she had a reserve on them. But one of our very vigilant trustees noticed that they were in the catalogue and encouraged the City Council to buy them back. Bit of a legal wrangle went on with Sotheby's, a bit of argy-bargy, as you say, but we got them back at half the price that they were on reserve for. And it's the first known example that I'm aware of a buy one sate, get one free. So we're delighted about that. We then put them in storage for 16 years because we couldn't afford to restore them, but we knew they were home-ish. And last year we spent 8 months with 2 sculptors, 7 days a week, repairing them, replacing arms, removing all sorts of things that shouldn't have been there, replacing the gold, the gilt. And on the 28th of May last year, they all went back. And they are magnificent. 8 feet tall, they weigh half a ton each, they're perfectly safe, don't worry. They're fixed to the walls, they won't fall. And they are magnificent works of art. And each one represents Franciscan saints. And as a credit to everybody who's been involved in the project as well. So that's the monastery. And it's officially 2 years running the UK's best unusual venue. And when you think the competition in the UK at all levels for events, and you will have all attended many, many events over the years, for us to achieve that accolade in consecutive years is something which we're very proud of, and the building should take due credit for all of that. So on behalf of myself as chairman of the monastery and equally as High Sheriff of Greater Manchester, thank you for being here, because it makes a huge difference to everything we do. All proceeds keep the building going and help us restore it. And secondly, I hope you have a fantastic evening. Well, I know you will. And congratulations to all those who may be receiving something later, because everybody's a winner, as we know. And thanks for being here. Appreciate it.